Shalom, Israel. Want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, BAHASHAM, YAHAWAHSHI, BAHASHAM, Rakak, Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops at Great Millstone. And peace and salutations and peace and mercy to the prophets, the hopeful elect, 144,000. And to the men and women of the 12 lost tribes of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. Shalom. Back with another lesson. I'll title this one, All These Curses. All these curses. Call halal Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi. Call halal Yamla Alahayanawa Yahawah Bahashem Yahawashi. And something that's on my spirit, and as the title reads, all these curses. And you know, looking in the headlines, this latest issue with the young man Tyree Nichols. Tyree Nichols, who is a so-called black, a Negro, who was murdered down there in Memphis, Tennessee, in 2023, and by three Memphis, police officers, which were those three Memphis police officers were three so-called Negroes, blacks. But Tyree Nichols was coming home from work and got a traffic stop by the police, and the police they aggressively approached him, and they end up pulling him out of his car, and Tyree Nichols end up taking off and running away. And they end up, them three Memphis police officers end up beating him, and Tyree Nichols end up dying. But those same three Memphis police officers got charged, were being charged for second-degree murder. See? But just the other day, those same three Memphis police officers, they beat the charges. See? They beat the charges. And yeah, they were wrong for even though it was a traffic stop, and they didn't have to kill him like that. They didn't have to beat him and kill him like that. They were wrong, but this is just judgment from the Lord, man, because the Lord tell you, great men are not always wise, and neither do the age understand judgment. And the Lord tell you too that my ways are not your ways, and my thoughts are not your thoughts. And at the end of the day, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, we are under the curses, man. We are under the curses. And you try to tell Jake, you try to tell our people, collectively as a whole, as a nation, we're under the curses, and they tell you no. A lot of Israelite, Jakes, they tell you that they're not under the curses. You see? That they're not under the curses. But time and time again, when it comes to, the judicial, the justice system, we constantly get murdered, imprisoned. We get treated like rag dogs, man, in this court system. And we know Esau, Edom, the so-called white folks, they are in rulership. They dictate policy. They control Congress. They run these courtrooms. See? And this is what the Lord said. Matter of fact, let me go here, because the Lord chose us, man. You know, going back to the first Egypt with Moses, our forefathers, and you know, the Lord using Moses to bring, to lead our people out of captivity and bondage, out of the first Egypt under the hands of the Egyptians, and brought us down into the wilderness. And the Lord gave us these laws, statutes, and commandments. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, these laws, statutes, and commandments were given to us. The Lord chose us. Israel, Jerusalem is a people before a place. We are Israel. We are Jerusalem. But what did the Lord say? The Lord made a covenant, a promise with us. Let me go here. What did he say? It says Deuteronomy 7 and 6. And it reads, it says, for thou art an holy people. See? For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. See? Above all people that are upon the face of the earth. And then, you wonder why, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, why we are the most talented. We are the most gifted out of everything we do. We're the best out of everything we do. Everything. I wouldn't care what it is. Music, the way you talk, the way you dress. Starting with the so-called Negro, the trendsetters, the way we dress, talk, walk, our music, the food. Overall, the tribes, man, are extraordinary people. Why? Because the Lord said, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. See? But we didn't took our influences and, it's always been the behavior. The behavior with our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And going back to that young man Tyree Nichols, because the scripture tells you to agree with thine adversary quickly. So when you get in, when you're in traffic and the police stop you, whatever they ask you to do, do it. They want to see your ID, your driver's license, because Jake, a lot of our people like to, they get stopped by the police. They're going to harass you. This is the land of our captivity. You got to deal with it, man. They ask you for your driver's license, your ID, or registration, or get out the car. Do it. You got to let the Lord take care of everything, but it just goes back to behavior. We're under those curses, man. But the Lord, He chose us. But our people, going back to the wilderness, coming out of that Egypt, the Lord made that promise, and our forefathers broke that promise, man. The Lord chose us, but our forefathers broke that. Our people broke that covenant, that promise. So the Lord said, I'm going to scatter you into every single nation on earth, man. And let's go here. For doing that. And no man is going to save you out of this. That's why we done seen Martin Luther King. We done seen Malcolm X. We done seen all the Native American, so-called Native American political leaders, the Latino, so-called Latino leaders, they all, they had the might, um, they had the right mindset on, trying to uplift their people, but they weren't doing the will of the Lord. The Black Panthers, Black Wall Street, they weren't doing the will of the Lord, man. See, the Lord told you, no one can save you out of this but me. And time and time again, our people, they think that they can do it on their own. You're not going. This Lord, the Lord has he didn't set Esau up, because Esau represents the left hand of the Lord. He uses these white folks as his whooping stick to whoop your ass, Jake. Jake, you're the borrower and they're the lender. And like it goes back to it, just behavior. You don't want to listen, man. You don't want to listen. You try to tell Jake about the scriptures, and they buck up at it. They fan their hand at it, man. Let me go here. So this is why we constantly see, the Trayvon Martins, the Tyree Nichols, George Floyd. The list goes on, man. There's a huge list of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians that constantly get beat down and murdered and put in prison, and then total unrighteousness, man. And then what do our people like to do? You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. What do they like to do? They want to protest to the enemy. Try to stand up and, and they not thinking about the Lord. They want to take situations into their own hands. Let me go here. Psalm 81 and 10. It says, and it reads, it says, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it. The Lord said, come back to me, Jake. I'm the way out of this. There's no other way out of this but through me. The straight gate. Period. There's no other way out of this. And we're going into Jacob's trouble. And Jacob's trouble is for Jacob, even though all nations is going to be in this trouble, this tribulation. But mainly they coming after you, Jake. You so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And we see in this end time on where it's going. Donald Trump is they're getting ready to pass all these execution laws and expand all of this, man. And this is they really gonna show their horns. I mean, the gloves are gonna be completely off. They're not gonna fight fair, man, at all. It's gonna get nasty out here. But the Lord said, open thy mouth wide and I will fill it. I'm the only way out of this, Jake. It says 11, but my people would not hearken to my voice. How are you hearing the Lord's voice? The Lord has set up the men, the prophets, the teachers out of his people, the men, starting with the apostles on down at Great Millstone. And other men teaching the same likewise doctrine. There's only one gospel. The Lord is telling you, you better come back to him and rehearse the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. Line your life up with the scriptures. There's only one gospel, man. This is what we're telling you, Jake. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. We're telling you what the true name of the Lord is, the Father and the Son, who your enemies are. But they don't agree with that. We got some so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. They believe some of that. They believe on Jesus the Christ. They believe on Jehovah. They believe on Allah. They're just Egyptology, Kemet. They're all over the place. But my people will not hearken to my voice, in Israel with none of me. They reject the Lord. It says 12. It says, so I gave them up unto their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsel. And this has been the problem. They walked in their own counsel. The Lord said, okay, you don't believe that you're a Hebrew Israelite? You don't believe my name is YAHAWAH, BAHASHAM, YAHAWAHSHI, the Savior, the Deliverer? You don't believe that you got enemies? Huh? You don't believe that, right? To you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. You don't believe none of that, right? Let me go here. Let me close out with this. Call halal, Yahweh Shem Yahweh. You don't believe none of that. So the Lord he didn't let you walk in your own ways. And how's it worked out? When you go into them courtrooms and when you're trying to start a business and all of that, how does it work out? How does it work out, Jake? You go into the stores, getting followed around, constantly harassed, getting mocked at, laughed. You want to live gigantic and big. Esau, Edom, the so-called white folks, they make you sell out. They make you do something strange for a piece of change, right? So what the Lord say? You don't believe none of that, right? You don't want to listen. You want to walk in your own ways. Leviticus 26 and 17. Leviticus 26 and 17, and it reads, it says, and I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. And we've seen it over and over and over again. Slain before your enemies. Jake tell you, I ain't got no enemies. Everybody got enemies. You don't see the lion hanging out with the damn zebra. You don't see the bear hanging out with the deer. And I will set my face against you, and ye shall be slain before your enemies. Huh? They that hate you shall reign over you. See? And we see what's going on with the northern kingdom, with the so-called Latinos. We see what's going on with the so-called Native American Indians and to you so-called Negroes. You're constantly oppressed. You're constantly getting gunned down by the police for a traffic stop. They that hate you shall reign over you. They're deporting you so-called, starting with the Latinos, they're deporting you out of here. Don't matter if you were born here, graduated from college, it don't matter. And it's going to trickle down to the other tribes, to you so-called Negroes and Native American Indians too. See? They that hate you shall reign over you, and shall flee when none pursueth you. And this is what we've witnessed. This is what we witness over and over again. They that hate you reign over you, and you can't do nothing about it. Nothing, unless you come back to the Lord. That's why the Lord said you got to wait. Blessed he that waiteth for the Lord. This is why in this time, the Lord, he giving Jake all the time to come back to him. To come back to him. Because in this Jacob's trouble, it's going to be worse than slavery, man. And the Lord's elect, his chosen, is going to be protected and delivered out of this, man. Period. Shalom.